Hey everyone. This week, what are we talking about, baby?
Um, we're talking about movies that make us feel happy and fuzzy and warm on the inside. And we're not ranking them. This is just movies that we like to cozy up to. At least I do. Also, disclaimer, we don't know what the other person is going to talk about. So, Sanket is going to have five movies. I'm going to talk about five movies. We might have a couple of special mentions. But if there's an overlap, we might talk about an extra film. Who knows? But let's
Yeah,
see.
we're trying to keep it as new.
Mhm.
So you wanna go? You wanna go with your first one?
Okay, sure. So I have bugged you for months, years possibly, to watch this film. Up on a Poppy Hill.
So
uh, Animated film, Ghibli studio film.
yeah, thanks for introducing because no one knows.
Um, okay, good. Coming of age story. So very typical cutesy moments of, girl meets boy and they kind of hit it off very awkwardly, like whatever teenage awkwardness represents. And the premise is that they're trying to save their school clubhouse or something. And uh, basically, it's very important to this boy and his team of clubhouse keepers to be able to maintain that building because it's part of something historical. It's part of some kind of um, tradition for them. And he meets this girl by chance, and she goes to the same school as he does. And there's this beautiful scene where she offers to help raise funds to keep the clubhouse. And he's on one side of the table printing, and she's on the other side, writing something down. And there's this stupid and beautiful teenage sexual tension where you're just so thrilled to be in the same room as your crush, and those kind of cute moments. There's a bit of a twist in the story which I don't want to spoil for anyone, but it ends well. It's a feel good. It's a very well written story. I think one of the finer animations of Ghibli Studio. If anybody's a Ghibli Studio fan, they should have definitely watched Up on a Poppy Hill. Also, some of the most fantastic food animation moments I have seen, even in current cinema. So it's worth watching simply because if you were ever in a situation where you liked someone and you never had the courage to tell them because you were a 14-year-old awkward someone, um, you will relate terribly with the story because I was always afraid to go and tell anything to my crushes. And I feel like this story really captures that and captures the concept of like nuances of anything that is new love or puppy love and anything that follows suit.
This should be called the Hill. Alright.
So we didn't take a moment to talk about this, so we should talk about this. Sanket is always going to talk about PJs or puns. Um, and I apologize on behalf of him, but also I cannot stop him, so here we are.
We also have to take a poll, like in the future recordings, as to whether they want it. I'm preempting that. Uh, Speaking of the movie, was Miyazaki involved in it? Or did
Uh,
I don't know? Did he direct this or was he
I
involved in it?
actually don't know. Let's see. So Sanket and I care very deeply about Mr. Miyazaki and everything he does, but I am not sure if he was the one who. Okay, so Goro Miyazaki, another Miyazaki, uh, animated and directed Up on the Poppy, his son. So Hayao
Oh,
Miyazaki runs Ghibli Studio, runs most of the animation efforts of Ghibli Studio, and his son actually directed it. And um, I think was also the head animator, as per Dear Vicky.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right, this came out uh, last decade, 2010s.
2013, yeah, it came out in
Wow.
20. Hmm.
And it didn't get much recognition because I remember during that time, I think Miyazaki's Wind Rises had released,
Uh-huh.
and this was around 2013, 2014, and that was nominated for. But this didn't get any traction.
No, it didn't get any
Wonder why.
traction. I I think it's because the story is so, it's so light, right? Like there is, I mean, there is, they're talking about the Tokyo Olympics and stuff, or anything that has happened in that time era. Apparently, that's when the movie is set, and it's, this is post-war, the post-Korean War, where people were uh, dying everywhere, and there were these kids who were um, kind of misplaced and so there is that backdrop. And this has happened apparently during or after the Summer Olympics of 1964. So there is there is lot of traction, which is very similar to, I think, most of the Ghibli studio, where it is placed in something which has happened in real life.
Mhm.
But I think it did not do well because it wasn't fantastical, right? Like there is everything about Ghibli Studio is about spirits and monsters and magic, and like think about Howl's Moving Castle. That's another Ghibli Studio classic, and it's about like this moving steampunk mechanical castle that that you can take with you everywhere, and it's very mm, uh, very scientific, but also run with magic. Like there's something going on over there which is like fantasy based. But this was nothing like that. This is just about regular people, regular kids who have lunch boxes and worry about exams and grades. And maybe that's why it didn't do well. I don't know. It's weird, but it's a fantastic film.
Also, like the boom of I know like uh, also like the boom of anime did happen in the last decade, right? Like obviously these Ghibli has been around since 80s, and anime shows have started like have been around since the 80s and the 90s. And there were loyalists
Hmm.
of Naruto and Pokemon, Ghibli studio, but the boom has actually happened uh, towards the later half 2010s, where streaming became a big. So I think that's the reason why it's coming up.
I think that makes sense. I genuinely think that makes sense because the story is based off a manga. I
Mhm.
forget what the manga's name is, but it's not like written by anybody, from Ghibli. So it was adapted from a manga, and then they kind of built off of it. My presumption is it was a popular manga, but and that's why it did not translate well into screen, because that happens, right? Like if something is adapted, you want it to be exactly like the way it is in the book, and if it's not, then that upsets you. That could also be a reason, because I
Mhm.
never read manga. I only watch the movie. So for me, there is no standard for me to judge. But uh, it's so well thought out, like the characters, even the friends of the protagonists, like so well thought out, like so well planned, so cute. Like they take they understand what's going on between the protagonists without really ever talking about it. Also, this is one of those odd films where there is no big bad guy, no villain, nothing. It's just two kids and everything that's happening in and outside of their school. And that's it.
Okay, maybe this discussion would compel me to finally watch it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll talk about. my number one. Again, again, I also want to talk about an anime,
How?
and it is my favorite Pixar movie, and it's Wally.
Wally. I forgot about Wally. Wally is not on my list.
Yeah, because you don't like it as much. You like
But it's a feel
it's
good.
not even, maybe it's not even like your favorite Pixar movie. I'm guessing.
No, it's not my favorite Pixar film. It's not
Yeah,
even in my top favorite Pixar, top five Pixar films.
it's my favorite Pixar film simply for the uh, simply because of how it made me feel. I still remember, like it's been what 14 years since I've seen it, and I still remember every single thing that I felt when I was watching that movie. I've seen it numerous times, but it's a type of movie that even if I would have seen it once, I would have still
Mhm.
remembered every single thing. And that's what I think feel good movies do to you, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're watching it, you're in it. You're part of the family. You're part of that environment that you're watching. And
Mhm.
Wally is the best reason when it. Wally is the best example of environmental cinema for me, because to take that risk of not having dialogue in the first half an hour, 45 minutes of the movie in a kids film where you don't really know how much uh, how much attention that you're gonna demand from these, like from your target audience.
Yeah.
And you know, just the balls to do that, for me that was amazing. And even for me, like animation, the kind of animation that I grew up on, Wally was a different stage for me because
Mhm.
I wasn't familiar with that many Pixar movies. I had only seen like, Toy Story. I hadn't seen till then.
You haven't seen Monsters Inc. and stuff till then.
No, no, I hadn't seen. So I was only had only seen like Toy Story ka thoda sa, like just bits and pieces of it, and I'd seen Incredibles. So, but
Mm.
even if I would have seen everything before
Mm.
Wally would still be new to me because it is something that I think uh, it is something that I think did a big thing. Like it for me, it did a big thing for animation in the sense that
Okay.
again, like I'm talking about environmental cinema, thing that Ghibli is known for. Okay, to do
Mhm.
that in a Pixar movie, that was something. And the fact that even while you're making me feel uh, feel like I'm part of that world and make me feel, mushy mushy with the love story and everything.
Mhm.
That is tough, man.
Mhm.
And
For
and
me,
and to and to and to make that happen in a kids movie,
yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah,
great
yeah. That's
achievement.
what I was just going to say. To make it happen in a film that is
Yeah,
for children, it's not at all for adults. Like, but the theme is so matured and grown up, and even the fact that Eva is
yeah. They're not human characters, and you're feeling so much for the
oh,
human, non-human.
so so much. And and also, I mean, for me it is the flip, the gender flip, where I think Wally is like maybe at the most masculine if not genderless, but Eva is definitely like has like feminine energy, and she's like this badass, like she'll shoot up the place. And Wally is like a very pacifist type of a person, like he's very non-violent, and
Hey, mate.
that's not his thing. And it's so cute, it's so adorable to think that those characters are like looking out for each other even though they don't really know what's going on. I think
Mhm.
that is adorable. That is very difficult to pull off considering they're not humans. There is no way to feel um, empathy or anything for them unless you're literally like giving them some kind of backdrop story, which is, I don't know, that's true. I agree. That part is phenomenal. That it's this is for kids. This is a kids film.
Yeah. And just the way they set up the world, right? Like how we, like it was so easy for us to know what the world has been through and what the world is without like much dialogue or exposition,
Mm-hmm.
anything of that.
Hmm.
That is an achievement.
Hmm. Universe introductions, yeah. Like
Yeah,
you just know exactly what is happening without
yeah.
really somebody explaining to you. Yeah, I know what you mean.
With the plant thing that he has come for.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay.
So
Next one on Radha's
what's
list,
the
my
second one?
list. Um, okay. You don't like this film, and that's fine. I love this film. It's another coming of age story. Dil Chahta Hai. Hindi
Hey,
film.
hey, I don't dislike it. I just don't love it the way others do.
Okay. And I get it. I mean, I guess it's subjective to someone's personal experience, I think, Dil Chahta Hai. So, okay, again, I've somehow picked another coming of age film as a feel good film. Dil Chahta is about three friends and what three friends do once they graduate college. And um, you, the story actually puts into perspective that graduating college or working at a job does not an adult make. Uh, and friendship goes beyond laughing and happy times and sparkly times where everything is like, good and rosy. And friendship is also about being vulnerable in very dark moments when you can't really be vulnerable with anyone else. So it's basically about three friends, and an incident happens, and a very, very petty incident happens, and they have a falling out. And then the story kind of traces what each of them are doing in their life separately. And I think that is so great because generally, when I see movies about friends, it's about all the stuff they do together.
Wait, wait,
Um,
wait. Avi, is can this be a prequel to like just this part? Can this be a prequel to Zindagi Na Milegi
Absolutely.
Dobara?
Absolutely. I mean, it was Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, another Hindi film, another fantastic
Just
Hindi film.
realized.
Um, and weirdly, so Dil Chahta Hai is written by Farhan Akhtar, and Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara is written by his sister Zoya Akhtar, and it traces again three guys, three friends, childhood friends, and they have a falling out over something, and basically two friends have a falling out, and then the third friend plays like a mediator between them, and um, but Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara probably deserves a separate podcast all of its own. There's so much to dissect in that. But the reason for me, weirdly, if anybody asked me to pick between Dil Chahta Hai and Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, I would pick Dil Chahta Hai. I find Dil Chahta Hai far more realistic than Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara as my middle class self. I feel like there's far more achievable, possible instances that happen in Dil Chahta Hai, where you graduate college, you go to work. If you have a family business, you work at your family business. If not, then you pursue whatever you're good at, and you try to work in that. And that part was like so dry but so necessary to the story because you cannot just be in college for the rest of your life. And I think that's kind of what it was. And there's this scene in the movie which I recommend everybody to watch. So the two friends who have a falling out, one of them experiences something very uh, tragic or very um, unbearable in their life, and even though he knows he's fighting with his friend, he kind of accidentally calls him without realizing he's calling his friend. And that scene always makes me think of you because I think like if I fight with you, then who am I going to talk about it with? Like, I'm going to call you up and I'm going to be like, okay, this guy, like, he fought with me and he's an ass. And yeah, you're the ass in the situation. But for me, that that scene is so ridiculously important because friends are known for, like, having a good time, and then to be vulnerable with them. I think that's what the story is. Like, you cannot always be happy and giggly around your friends. Sometimes you have to talk about stuff that's not comfortable. You have to hash through things without, behaving like a child. And that coming of age is realizing that no one stays the same. So just because they were a particular way when they were teenagers doesn't mean they're going to be that way as adults. But that doesn't mean that there is no scope to be friends with them. And that's why I love that film. The music is amazing. Some of
Mhm.
the some of the nicest songs, some of the best soundtrack, best background score I have seen in Indian cinema happens in Dil Chahta Hai. Very cute story, very everything works out in the end, guys. So I know it sounds like very heavy themed, but it's a very very feel good story about three friends who basically kind of find their way back to each other.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Should I gather some hate? Can we
Gather
debate
some
on gather
what?
some
Okay,
hate?
fine, go for it.
You don't have to be fine. I have to be fine to even uh talking about this talking about its flaws.
Okay, fine. Let's talk about its
I ha-
flaws.
I'll gather some courage and talk about things that I didn't like. First of all, I saw this movie like
When you were a child.
ah, so I didn't understand the mature themes and everything. But as I grew up, I I understood the parts which had Akshay Khanna in it, but I hated the parts. I'm saying this it's very like I know that I'm gonna get some hate comments. Yeah,
No,
I
I don't think.
hated Akash's parts and Saif
Okay,
Ali
let's
Khan's.
let's say something before you go into this. Anybody who's listening to this, and we don't know who's listening to this, please take opinions for what they are. They are opinions. Uh, we can get heated about it, but please don't, like, come at us for, like, not having the same perspective as you. Uh, and just think of it as a different way of watching the same film.
Mhm.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, here we go. So okay, I'll talk about Akash later, but
Mhm.
Saif Ali Khan's story. It's not like I hated or anything. It's just that it felt very, very disconnected from the that these two had. Fact
Sure.
that fact that you said that they back, find their way back. That for
Mhm.
me was it didn't apply to Saif Ali Khan's character. For me,
Yeah.
he was disconnected from them. He didn't have. I felt like he didn't have any stake in that. He was he was always great with them, but
Mhm.
he's
He is. You
he's
want to say he
diminished
was
to
used
he's
like
diminished
comic
to a
relief.
merely comic relief.
Okay.
Okay? And his scenes are very funny. I'll tell you that. He's a great actor.
Mhm.
He's a great
Mhm.
he's a great comical actor, and his story is amazing with Subodh and everything. I
Mhm.
loved all those things, but it's just like
Mhm.
it felt like a different movie for me. Okay? The
Mhm.
fact that Akash and Akshay Khanna's character they were also going through different things, but
Mhm.
for some reason it they still I still felt that they were struggling towards similar things. Okay, even if it
Sure.
wasn't the same, but
Mhm.
thematically I would say that they were
Sure.
going. Okay, they were
Mhm.
finding themselves.
Mhm.
Okay, it wasn't the case with Saif Ali. So great storyline, like very funny and everything, but didn't belong in the same. Okay, then comes uh, Amir Khan's character Akash. Okay, now this was a time when I noticed that there were a lot of a lot of movies which had this type of character. Didn't give a fuck about life, was happy go lucky, who बाप के पैसे उड़ाता है and everything. And that was happening in the 90s. Like there were so many movies. Saif Ali Khan had played one in Kya Kehna. Do you remember Kya Kehna?
I remember
The mo-
Catherine.
what was the movie that it ripped off? Uh, that it ripped off from? There's a movie.
Honestly, I don't remember.
Okay, digressing. He played
Yeah.
the same character where he didn't give a fuck. He got someone pregnant, didn't give a fuck. He wasn't serious
Yeah,
in life
but
and
I
everything. There
feel
were
like you're
no, no,
putting
no, no,
the
no. There
two
were. I'm saying
characters.
that. Listen
Mhm.
to me. No, there were a lot of characters in the 90s that were like this. And then I saw Dil Chahta Hai, okay, and I didn't find anything great about it. Okay, that said, I loved the writing. Okay, the way he finds himself in the process. Okay, the fact that whatever happens to him in Australia kind of thing, that was really well done. But then again, it felt a lot of it felt generic.
Okay,
Okay, this is
okay,
this
fine.
is my criticism. Okay, I like a
Okay,
lot of
okay,
things about the movie.
understood. Understood. I'm just giving a counter argument. Akash's character is starts off as a toxic character. So he, through like some very childish, very immature behavior, gets his friend and his girlfriend to break up. So the story starts with him being a little toxic, or he makes an ass of himself, proposing to a girl in a club who was like not heeding to him and not taking him seriously and making her uncomfortable in a crowded club. He comes across as a very toxic person who, you're right, does not take life seriously. But there comes a point in the story where he does the same thing with his friend, and he does not take what his friend is going through seriously and kind of actually ridicules and belittles him. And I think in that situation, and that's why the fallout happens, right? Because he belittles what his friend is going through. And you're right about
That
that.
was
There
great.
is
I'm not denying that.
there is something about, but what I'm trying to talk about is I have not seen uh, accountability happen of these characters. I haven't. That's the first time I ever saw a character take accountability for his actions, which are like not good actions or what we consider toxic actions today. Um, he takes accountability for them. He is forced to be in a situation where he literally has to go through everything that he has made someone else go through. Um, that scene between him and Akshay Khanna, where they do have the fallout, he gets slapped on his face.
I used to, even as a child, I used to scream.
He he to get slapped on the face
Yeah, that used to scare me. That scene, the fact that everything was so happy in
was
the movie,
completely
and
okay.
then
Was
that scene
awesome.
happens, and I used
Yeah,
to dread that scene because like
yeah,
now
yeah,
everything's gonna be sad.
yeah, yeah.
And
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. There is a same thing that happens in Zindagi too, where Hrithik Roshan slaps Farah.
oh yeah,
Yeah. So again, I think that this is being drawn from some kind of experience that they have felt or they have seen or witnessed, but and that's a different discussion. Um, that movie talks about three different people. Now, I'm not trying to make an argument for Saif Ali Khan's character. What I'm trying to say is that he is kind of the opposite of these two. These two take things seriously. They are very passionate about their friendship. They're very passionate about what they feel in their life, for the things they do, for the things they don't do. Whereas Saif Ali Khan's character is not at all that way. He doesn't take life seriously, and that's why he also becomes like the butt of the jokes for both of them, because he's always falling in love with the wrong girls. He's always kind of not being able to prioritize what he wants from his life, and it's like in love with the idea of love rather than actually understanding what love is. But at the same time, he's the first person to talk to these two and tell these two about what's happening in their lives. And honestly, when there are three friends, um, there is always one person who's playing the dad. And weirdly, the person who, like you said, doesn't have any real traction in the storyline other than comic relief is actually playing the dad. And I think that thing is so cute, and so I don't know, it's just it's really, it makes me feel fuzzy to think that the people that we don't take seriously are actually the ones who are trying very hard to maintain the peace.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I think that's why I like those
Yeah,
characters
I
so
get
much.
your point.
It's a weird trade-off. But
Okay,
anyway,
I didn't
anyway,
feel
anyway.
that.
Ugh, okay, fine.
Again, like Saif Ali Khan's comic relief thing, no? That used to happen in every single movie, every single big blockbuster. Like
I don't believe it
Johnny
ever.
Lever was hired for that one.
No, 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 no. Don't put Johnny Lever and Saif Ali Khan's character in the same bucket. Don't do that. Johnny Lever is a separate institution by himself. Saif Ali Khan's character, I will say this, unleashed a set of films that had only that character, only Saif Ali Khan playing them.
Yeah, yeah,
Salam
true.
Namaste, Kal Ho Na Ho. That Hindi cinema was so impressed by this person who was funny but also like sophisticated. Like I don't know, there was something going, some
And then he
obsession with that.
goes, yeah, I get you. And then he goes ahead and does Omkara
He does Omkara, he does
right in the
Ek
middle of it.
Hasina. Oof, he has range, but I don't think Saif Ali Khan ever got to explore that range. I think he didn't do anything beyond Fuckboy. Like
Hmm.
he didn't have a chance to do
No,
anything
but
beyond
he's
Fuckboy.
reinventing himself, right?
He's
After
reinventing
after
himself.
Go Goa Gone, I would say like he's
But
doing
is
great.
Go Goa Gone his reinvention or just the fact that we have not seen a movie like that in India?
No, I'm
Think
not
about
talking about the movie. I'm talking about his character. Burris.
For me, the top characters are always going to be Langda Tyagi from Omkara, Ek Hasina Thi, and then his role in Dil Chahta Hai. I forget his name in that movie, but
Are you excluding him from Kalona? He was so good in it.
I'm excluding him from Kalona because I think Kalona Ho wouldn't have happened had Dil Chahta Hai not happened.
मेरे पास दो कुत्ते हैं.
I just think that when was Kalhona Ho? Do you remember? Kalhona was 2000
2004,
and Dil Chahta Hai
2001.
that was 2001. So I think
2001, bro. Like, like such a great year, right?
Dil Chahta Hai unleashed Saif Ali Khan into the market as the unlikely, you know, underdog you end up rooting for.
Hmm.
Very, very, very light, very, very easy to digest his character, and just a lot of fun. There's, like you said, there is no weight to this character other than the fact that they bring comic relief. But the thing is, in such a serious story, I think you need that to balance it out. Otherwise, it just becomes a very I don't know. I don't think feel good cinema should force you to have existential questions. I don't think that's right. I think feel good cinema should be feel good cinema, and that's it. But
Hmm.
that's my opinion.
Okay.
Hmm.
Second one that I want to talk about is probably my favorite action comedy, and it's Hot Fuzz.
Ooh, I
This
love
movie,
it.
I had seen Shaun of the Dead before, and as much as I was impressed by it, I love Shaun of the Dead.
Hmm.
I loved it when I saw it, and I still do as much as I did when I saw it. And when I was starting Hot Fuzz, obviously at that time I knew that there's a thing called Cornetto trilogy, but I knew that like how can something be as good, like better or as good as Shaun? And then I was blown over by Hot Fuzz. This movie has four jokes every second
Yeah, Hot
with its
Fuzz is.
dialogues, everything. It's action comedy. It's not just uh, practical comedy. It's
Mm-hmm.
everything. This movie has
It's
everything.
everything.
It has quips, it has slapstick humor,
It
it
has
has,
great cinematography.
yeah,
One of the
editing.
oof,
What about the editing?
fantastic,
Oh my god.
absolutely fantastic.
The thing about
I had
the
hot fuzz
fact
on
that
my
they
lip.
have, huh?
I took it out because I knew you were going to talk about it. I had hot fuzz on my lip. I knew you were going to talk about it. I'm like, I'm going to take it off my list.
Dude,
Okay.
talking about the editing, they've made fun of Hollywood editing style with the thing, with the paperwork trope,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
paperwork
yeah,
joke
yeah.
that joke that they have. But you know how much paperwork this will be, and then they, they do that transition.
Yeah,
My God, this
yeah.
movie is everything that I want from a comedy. It's probably like in my top five comedies of all time. And honestly, I don't even like. There are better. Uh, I can. I don't even remember anything. I can't remember any action comedy that I've liked than what. There are a bunch. There's 48 Hours, Beverly Hills Cop, Midnight Run. So many action comedies. 21 Jump Street. So many
Mm.
that have come out in the last decade. What was that? What was that Sandra Bullock movie? Heat. The Heat.
Heat.
That
Heat
was,
was a good film. That was a
yeah,
good cop film.
yeah. Again, like I think even Shaun of the Dead can be classified as that.
I love Hot Fuzz, and I think it is a superior film to Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah. The fact that it's uh feel good. The reason why it's feel good for me is because I can, whenever I'm bored, I know that I can rely on Hot Fuzz. Like any
Right.
scene that I can skip to, it's not like I have to start from the start. Any scene that if I close my eyes and just skim to any part, I know that I'm gonna have a great laugh. That scene, so many things. Like the, was that bird? Which bird was it that they were chasing? Goose. Sorry, that was a goose.
Oh
Goose
yeah,
that they chase. That point break thing that they do. Oof, everything about the movie. Fish taker. P.I. Staker.
yeah,
What's your name? P.I. Staker. Fish taker, yeah?
yeah.
And a great
Yeah.
cameo. Do you know Kate Blanchett is in the movie?
Uh, she is.
Yeah, she's the girlfriend that that
Oh, right, right,
dumps
right,
him.
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
She's
yeah, yeah,
not,
yeah.
she doesn't show her face. She's in that
No.
hazmat suit in the
Yeah, yeah,
movie.
yeah. I completely forgot about that. Um,
And there's a Bond. You know who's the Bond actor?
there's a Bond actor.
Yeah, Timothy
Wait.
Dalton.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You say Bond. I think Daniel Craig. Now I don't know why. Okay, 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 okay. Got it. There's nothing she about him. He's
No,
he's
it's
okay.
like to think like there's only one Bond.
No, I'm not saying there's only one Bond. And
I
you
can,
you say Bond, and I think Daniel. I'm like, wait, was he there somewhere? Like I didn't even think about. Okay, one second. Forget about everybody. Um, Olivia Colman was it?
yeah,
she's my she's my current great love. So
yeah,
uh,
same. Yeah. She's my current favorite actress. Anything that she does, no, I don't care
everything she does is gold.
I don't care how bad the
Anything
movie
she does is gold. Oh, anything she does is gold.
is.
Okay.
Okay, I think we have
Hot
to move on.
fuzz. Okay,
What's your
okay,
third
let's
movie?
move on. My okay. So this is a movie that you had introduced me a couple of years ago. Pride, and
Ah,
I'm surprised at how many times I go back and watch it. I know the movie has gotten into some trouble for not having like proper ethnic representation and other things,
oh,
but
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
like the apparently that was a that also there was a bit of goof up of some of the facts of, because it's based on a real story. So anybody who doesn't know about this film, first and foremost, it's I think one of the first times I watched something that was LGBTQ based, right? Like not not like a side character, not a character that was that didn't even have like a subplot. Was just like just a gay character for the sake of represent, nothing like that. This movie was fully focused on two communities that had faced some kind of atrocities from their government or from society, and how they ended up helping each other. And uh, I think this movie is particularly, it is feel good is because it is unlikely that such a story actually occurs in real life, and it did. It's based on a true story of about a bunch of lesbian and gay activists who went out of the way to support minor or British minors, and help them raise money when they were going through the 1984 strike, and because of poor working conditions and whatnot. But it was basically two minorities, I guess, who needed each other in some
Marginal.
way. And yeah, and they marched for their rights. They collected money, and we have to understand something. Lesbians and gays supporting the minors was not a straightforward thing. There were some minors who didn't want to be associated with LGBTQ communities at all. So they helped these people, knowing very well that they didn't want this help. And of course, there were some people who were humans and kind and logical, and they broke the barriers of like communicating with the LGBTQ community, understanding why they wanted to help them. And there are these really cute moments um, between the two sets of people, because there's this lady there's a scene where there's this lady, she's like, I have a question to ask you. And like it's a gay couple and they're looking at each other, I know what she's going to ask, and they're already like feeling like, oh, this is going to become very dark very quickly. And she's like, if both of you are men, say, oh god, I know where this question is going, who does the housework? And he's like, okay, I didn't think you were going to ask that. Like very cute comic light moments. There's also the scene where they are traveling on their way to the miners community, which is away from where they're living. So they're in a bus, they're going there, and there are these two or three girls who are singing, um, every woman is a lesbian at heart, a lesbian at heart, a lesbian at heart. And it's just like a little moment between the scenes. But one of the men go, well, you cannot generalize. All women are not lesbians. Saying, my mother is not a lesbian. And the scene turns into every woman is a lesbian at heart, including Reggie's mom. And it's like, it's so cute, that scene, because we are officially talking about it without getting preachy about it, right? Like I think that's why I like that movie, that they're not preaching at any given point of time that uh, you cannot be a homophobe, you cannot be a person who doesn't understand that love is love. They're not preaching that at any point. These are just people who wanted to help other people, and it ends in such a grand and glorious way, the story. And to think that this actually happened in real life makes it even better. Like it's not a fictional account, these things actually happened. And it's based on real activists who fought very hard for people's rights, and they didn't care if it was gay rights or minor rights or worker rights or women's rights. Rights were rights for them. And that's why I think like this movie just takes the cake in that, to think it's a real life feel good story.
I can't recommend. Like, it's criminal that it's been like 8 years since it's released and it hasn't got its due.
It hasn't got its due. That's true.
Like I
It has.
thought when I had seen it back in 2014, thought that this would be one of the big movies of the year, and it was nowhere to be seen. Not
Yeah.
that year, not any. Somebody
Yeah.
needs to bring it back to you know,
Yeah.
simply because like you mentioned, like it's not preachy, and that's what makes it
Mm.
feel good. It on top of everything, it makes you understand it's so difficult to it's so hard to hate people, but it's so easy to love people. But
It's
still,
so
people
easy.
still people choose the other
Absolutely. It's so easy to just, and honestly, when you see the movie, you realize the people who are inclusive and kind and welcoming are having far more fun than the ones who are not. Like, you would think that the logical option would be to like join the celebrations, join the party. But I feel like you can see even in this story, in this movie, that people hold on to hatred because they think they're doing the right thing, or they're holding the moral compass of humanity. And the call outs of like society and its hypocrisy are so evident. And also my beloved um, priest from Fleabag, Andrew Scott, is in there, and I never
one. Oh,
realized.
I didn't
Yeah,
notice.
he plays uh, he plays the character who runs the bookshop with
Oh,
uh, his uh, his partner, and it's adorable the way he talks about it, because he comes from a very his character comes from a very um, orthodox place where they would beat him up and bully him, and in spite of that, he is offering to help these people. So there are all kinds of characters in that story. uh, it's worth watching.
and what
It's worth
two
watching.
two very weird casting choices which actually worked. One was the woman who plays uh, Dolores Umbridge,
Yes,
Imelda Staunton,
yes.
to make her
Up.
such a to give her such a likable character, and the guy who plays Noah, Dominic West. The guy
Yeah,
plays. You don't expect you see Noah from Affair, this toxic asshole
yeah.
guy.
He, he
You don't
plays.
expect him to play such a
No,
character.
you really don't. And he, like, his name is Jonathan in the movie, and he plays like this character who seems like he's just there for party. He's just there for celebration. He's not there for
Mhm.
anything else. And but he has such a sensitive, like, double-edgedness to that character, which is like so refreshing to see, because you generally don't get to watch like they oh let's talk about this. There is a dialogue in the scene where he goes like, what are we doing? Why are we like this? Why are we looking like this? And so, oh, are you telling me to hide my flamboyance? And
Mhm.
that line is like, like addressing any kind of homophobia, and without really talking about homophobia. It's like, because you can see that they are scared for their life. Like they are probably causing a threat to their life by helping people who don't want their help. So the to see that these actors have done like so many other cliche roles of protagonist, lover,
Dominic
or
West
whatever.
has never played character like this. He's been in uh, The Affair. He's been in The
Hmm.
Wire. He's never
Hmm.
played something else
He's never played a character like this. um
like it.
uh,
Even in The Wire,
yeah,
he was the asshole, right?
yeah. I mean, he's extremely flawed character, if that's what we are allowed to say now. He's an extremely flawed character in The Wire, but to see him in such a wholesome, nurturing kind of a role in this movie, it's amazing. And
Hmm.
honestly, I don't know how they cast like these people. Yes, there isn't ethnic representation. Let us be as
So
blunt about that as possible. That is true. There isn't, but still, I would say, please watch it. It's a good story to learn about, that real people did this. They pulled this off by acceptance and love.
it reminds me of
uh,
something.
mhm.
Uh, didn't Billy Elliot also deal with the minors issue? Was it the same thing?
The movie Billy Elliot.
Yeah.
I mean, it is set in the backdrop, right?
No, 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 no. I'm saying like his father also was a minor.
Yeah, but did they address this? I don't think
No,
they
no, no, no.
addressed.
They didn't address this. I'm saying like the, it was the same social issue, right? Like it was about the miners' strike, or was it something else that uh,
Honestly, I
father
can't
lost
remember.
his job?
I just I just know that his father lost his job, and I know there was like
They
some
have a
toxic
strike.
community. It is about the striking miners. You're right
Oh,
about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is
yeah,
about the
yeah,
striking.
that's what I'm. Other
Uh,
than that,
uh,
I know.
and
Just
this is, I think, this happens. Um, Actually, this is a very good thing you pointed out. This, I think, happens before uh, the gays and the lesbians group
mm,
joined hands with them.
uh,
So we can say that Billy Elliot's dad, because they were clashing with the police officers constantly. But as the numbers increased, and there's a scene in that movie where um, uh, the LGBTQ community points out about certain illegal practices of the police officers because they have gone through the entire spectrum of being harassed by the police.
mhm,
So they know things about the law that I guess the minors don't have access to or didn't or weren't educated about, and they were just accepting police brutality without realizing that some of it could be illegal. So it is possible that Billy Elliot's dad went through that before the pride community decided to join them. So that it is possible that this is happening in the same universe, if maybe few months apart.
mhm. Both movies deal with
Both
masculinity.
movies are good. Yeah, yeah. Both movies are good. It's just that
No,
I
both movies
recommend
deal with masculinity
toxic masculinity.
or
Um,
masculinity in general.
in general, there is a scene in Pride where you see, is his name Dominic West, or
Yeah,
am I
Dominic.
getting that? So there's a scene in Pride where Dominic West basically starts grabbing the women and dancing with them, and they're basically saying that their men don't dance with them, are not comfortable shaking their hips, and he just like goes around and starts dancing with them. And at the end of it, like I think one or two guys are like, okay, can you teach us how to dance, because clearly women love that. I thought that was so cute. I thought that was so adorable. It's like, okay, we found common ground, let's talk about it. But yeah, I watched that movie again last night, and I'd forgotten how what a happy film it is, like what a triumphant film it is. Okay, moving on.
So this movie is not necessarily feel good, but for me it is feel good because whenever I watch this movie, I I make sure that I watch it till the end, and it's simply because Aaron Sorkin's words, Aaron Sorkin's screenplays are like poetry to me. Okay, and my favorite movie of his is The Social Network. That's what I'm picking for my. This mic picks up your size as well. Okay?
I don't care if it does. Everyone in the world should know that I don't
Yes,
stand by.
everyone in the world like they are going to shit on me for not liking Dil Chahta as much. They're gonna shit.
No, I don't think people are going to have a problem with you not liking Dilshata as much as they're going to have a problem with you liking Social Network.
Even
I
if they don't
guarantee.
have a problem with me for not liking Dil Chahta as much, they'll still gonna be shitting on you for not liking. So because it's one of the best movies of all time. By all time, I mean all time since like 100 years, 100 or so years that cinema has existed. Yeah. The reason why I'm telling you that this is feel good is because again, Aaron Sorkin, whenever he writes, it's if anyone else writes that movie, and I'm not just talking about Social Network, it can be any movie that he has written. If anyone else writes it, it would feel like a fucking bureaucratic nonsense. Okay, the fact that he makes those scenes interesting, that is a masterclass. Every single thing in that film I had by hearted. I wasn't even into that many movies when I saw Social Network. But the fact that he could hook me, I was only into blockbusters and anything. So the fact that he could hook me just by words, that was a big thing, and it still is. Whenever I see Social Network, every single scene, I it's ingrained in my brain. That much I love it, and makes me feel so it's part of it. Like be it anything, there's so many iconic dialogues in it. Like you're gonna grow up, you're gonna be a big guy, and you're not gonna have friends. And you might be thinking it's because uh, it's because you're rich. Let me tell you from the bottom of my heart that that won't be true. It'll be because you're an asshole.
Wait,
That's
wasn't the dialogue you're gonna go through your life thinking girls don't like you because you're a nerd?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but that's not true.
It'll
They
be
don't like you because you're an asshole.
so. And then the movie ends. Okay, not gonna spoil. But why shouldn't I spoil the movie? Why is there anyone who hasn't seen Social Network?
Don't be an ass. Please don't be an ass.
Social
It is
Network needs
possible
to
that
be
there
seen.
are some people who are going to watch it and agree with you, so let them watch it.
Not going to discuss. Yeah, but any other scene you pick, no? Like any of the courtroom scenes. Tell me when else have courtroom scenes been interesting without making them feel very, out of the box and dramatic, like something like Aaron Sorkin himself did in A Few Good Men, or like,
My cousin Vinny.
oh, I haven't seen,
Yeah, shame on you.
but whatever. Like, I'm not talking about courtroom like past courtroom scenes being not being good. I'm saying that are they good without being over dramatic?
My cousin Vinny.
I haven't seen. I will not talk about it. But for me, social networks are where you can just talk and talk and talk and still it feels like work. Thank God this thing doesn't have video because if it was, it would be hated so much more for making those faces.
I didn't make any face at you. I just spoke about my cousin Vinny, and I was proud that I watched my cousin Vinny and you haven't. That's all.
Doesn't doesn't take away from the fact you don't like social.
It's not about not liking social network. I just don't like that. I don't know. Maybe it's because of my bias towards Mr. Zuckerberg, but that's my problem. So it's difficult
But
sometimes for
you,
me to.
you you're not a big fan of Aaron Sorkin.
It's not about, okay, you have to understand something. I don't watch movies like the way you watch them. You watch them creator based. I watch them because they're good or bad. And
Did you watch
sometimes
did you watch Moneyball?
I watched Moneyball.
Did you like Money?
I liked Moneyball. I never said I didn't like it. But um, what I'm trying to say is you watch something because, like, what was the first thing you asked about Upon a Poppy Hill? Oh, did Hayazaki also direct it? I never think about it. I
Miyazaki.
think, sorry, did Miyazaki corrected and sorry, directed? And
पूरा
I said,
portmanteau.
sorry, did Miyazaki correct it? And I said, I'm saying direct or correct, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. And I'm like, no, his son directed it. So again, I have watched that movie so many times. I have never bothered to find out who wrote it, where it was adapted from, until this very discussion. And
Mhm.
that's just how I watch cinema. If I watch something or if I know something is like being made by Ghibli Studio, obviously I'll be excited about it. But I'm not going to go into the nuances of who wrote it and who directed it. And there are these very prominent people who write and direct it time to time, but I don't care
Fair
about that.
enough. Fair enough. I'm not saying that. Just saying that
Yeah,
you don't appreciate Aaron Sorkin as much as the world does. But I do.
I like his movies.
Okay, I'll tell you which ones. Okay. Moneyball. Okay.
I
Did
love
you see
it.
Trial of Chicago 7?
I did see it, yes.
That's something that he directed. Few Good Men.
I liked it. I like Few Good Men. It again, see, I liked it. So it is possible that I have a bias towards Zuckerberg, which is why I don't want to watch that movie in the light that you're watching that movie. I'm not watching it like cinema. I'm watching it about a real person who did certain things, is still doing those certain things.
Mhm.
And I don't like that. I guess a movie was made about him. I don't know. But
You like
that's my
Steve
problem.
Jobs? Like not the person in the movie, the one with Michael Fassbender.
I didn't like it. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
It wasn't well narrated for me.
So that's what worked. The fact that they chose to tell his story through these three, four uh, cut. What are they called? Events, certain days or events, whatever. Have for Apple. Yeah, I love those. Okay, cool. Too many debates today. What's
Okay,
your
that's fine.
What's your
It's good to know that we don't find comfort from the same things.
Yeah?
Okay, my next film, Harish Chandrachi Factory.
Hey,
Uh, okay, not a coming of age story. Again, a story about a real person, Dada Saheb Phalke, who brought cinema to India while India was still under British rule, and it's just beautiful and quirky and adorable. And if people don't understand Marathi, I recommend watching it on, like, Netflix or something where you get translations. The translations are really good. Um, Very culturally themed rather than just doing word to word translation. So anybody who doesn't understand the language, don't worry, you'll still like the film. Um, it is, and I still believe, a very great way to honor a person who brought movies to India. And it's just the entire film from start to finish. There is a there is a part in the film where he and his son, uh, Farke Sahib and his sons, or Farke Sir and his son. So his name is Farke, and his son go to the movies, and they see like moving pictures for the first time, and that's how he decides that he should also make movies in India based on Indian stories and stories that Indians would like to watch. And he goes about studying, and he ends up, selling stuff from his house. Uh, they didn't have anything pretty much like in their house to even sell in the beginning. So there's a scene where he sells the cupboard of the house. So his wife says that, oh, let me sell my jewelry and then you'll be able to study for it. And he kind of says, no, 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 let's sell furniture. Like, we don't need to sell your wedding jewelry right away. And this man, he has two sons, and he has a family to feed. But in spite of that, he's like pursuing this because he sees potential in it, and he sells the cupboard. The next day, you see a group of people kind of like crying and mourning in his house after he returns from a bookstore where he buys books on movie making. And he is scared because he thinks someone died in the house. And he walks in, and one of the neighbors kind of like consoles him and holds his hand and says like, I heard about the cupboard. And the whole scene kind of collapses. He's like, are you guys mourning about a damn cupboard? Get out of my house. And he looks at his wife and says, why are you crying? And they were all so sad about the cupboard. I felt sad too. And but we have to understand that this is the time that they were dealing in. Like the story begins in that time where people don't understand why he even pursued thinking about making films in India. And the whole premise is about bringing the movie industry into India, bringing jobs into India, where people can finally act or produce or edit or do anything that is required for production. And he brought all of that at a time when silent movies were a thing. And He he left no stone unturned, and it's so light-hearted and funny and completely adorable story. He There's a scene where he goes into the brothels to find a female actress for his film because none of the women want to act in his film because this is at a time in India where acting was not considered a respectable job for a woman, and even they don't want anything to do with his films. Like they literally say that they make a lot more money than he can ever pay them, which is actually true because in the beginning there was no money in Indian cinema. And they rejected his job offer to act in the first Indian motion picture. So he ended up casting a man, and he made the men who were in the movie, who were playing women in the story, to kind of imitate his wife. So there are these little instances in that which show when you're working with a crew that is not predominantly like actors or directors or story writers, like what happens then. And he the characters, the actors who are playing it's just wonderful. I can't talk about it enough. Anybody who loves cinema should watch
Mhm.
should watch this film to understand what happens when you take on something completely alien, completely new, with no context to whether or not it's going to work out, at a time when people were actually afraid of theaters. They were afraid of trains. They used to call it the iron monster.
Mhm.
They were afraid of still photography because they believed that the camera was going to suck in your soul and kill you.
And
uh,
the I think it was one of the first movies where they showed the train coming and people just
yes,
ran out.
yes. uh, and there's a scene where he does a time lapse video recording of a plant that he grows with a pea,
Mhm.
and he does a showcase of it to kind of encourage people to invest in his movie. And a man just runs out of the room because he gets scared of watching like this plant just grow in front of his eyes. uh, but we
Mhm.
also have to remember something. The movie goes beyond that. So his wife is the editor, so she learns the part of the cutting of the film and the developing of the film. And the more I read about it, I realized that that industry, actually the editing was done by women.
Mhm.
So there's a very
So
massive
it
part of
was
Indian cinema. Sorry, go ahead.
so this is not just limited to Indian cinema. Like
Yeah.
women used to edit films
Yes.
uh, all over the
Pretty
world.
much everywhere.
Yeah,
And
and towards the 40s,
mhm,
when men started realizing that editing is also a very an integral part of the movie,
integral part. Yeah.
they obviously didn't want them to
Then
take
they
credits,
took
and they
over
did.
it and made it a boys' club, but it was
But
never a
even
boys'
now,
club.
like through the years, women, like there's so many. If you see, there's so many women editors that are nominated and have won Oscars.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
because they still dominate.
Yeah, yeah, and they are the unsung heroes because it was never a boys' club, and they're still a very integral part of it. And you kind of see in this that the husband and wife couple are kind of handling everything. They're
Mm,
developing the movie. They're making sure that it's getting the right chemical treatment, that the cutting of the film is happening properly. There is and this is a two-man operation. They ended up getting one of their friends to help them out. So they're painting the set. They're doing everything. And if you love cinema, or if you love anything which is like behind the scenes or the making of, you should definitely watch Harishandachi Factory. It's going to get you in your feelings. You're going to feel so inspired and all kinds of productive after you watch that film,
yeah.
because it's a real story. It's a story about doing something against all odds. Imagine being in a world where somebody says you are crazy for using a camera. Like they actually try to admit him in an asylum without his consent. That is also shown, and it's hilarious, that scene. But
Mhm.
Anybody who loves cinema should watch Harishandrati Factory. Anybody. It doesn't matter if you know the language or not. Watch it with translations. You will not be disappointed.
They thought he was mad because he was moving to Dadar. So
Oh,
that I agree. Why would you move to Dadar?
why would you move to stop? No, Dadar is good. You get good food in Dadar.
I don't know if there are any movies about how the first film was made. Like there might be documentaries and stuff, but I don't think there's any. I haven't heard of any about the Lumia brothers. Yeah, Lumia, who made the first film. So yeah, but if you haven't seen something like that, one needs to watch it.
You
This was
have
a
to watch
time when like
Harishandrati Factory.
this was
Mhm.
a time when like filmmaking, photography, this was seen as part of science, more of science
Yes.
than art.
Yes.
They didn't
Absolutely. It was
consider
it was
like
considered
how we don't consider reels and TikTok art. No?
art. Exactly. Exactly. Because we have to understand something. Dada Saheb Phalke tried to employ people from the theater company. And the first thing they said is, why would people ever go to the movies when they can see a live performance of live humans on a stage in front of them? And they
Mm,
rejected him. They said that your enterprise is going to fail. Nobody's going to come watch your movies, your dumbass on the screen, fake movies. And the theater industry is going to be forever. And to think that an industry that was ridiculed became the biggest competitor of theater is that it really that movie spoke about so many elements of um first of all, again, it's against the backdrop of British rule. It's about a real person and his family. So he basically was running this operation with his wife and a couple of friends who had invested some money in him, and them pretty much looking at this as how, and there's an actual scene where he tells his wife, I think we should start, publishing again, because he was in the publishing business. And his wife is like, oh really, we're going to go back and publish newspapers? And he's like, no, we're going to publish movies. So even he as a person is not looking at this as something different from publishing newspapers. It was such a business transaction. It was just a means of making an industry that could gain money, that could make money.
yeah,
And it's just, it gets me in my feelings every time. This film, the actors, every single time, the dialogues, the interactions between different people, the soup, like, you are not just fighting against getting people to come and act in the film. You're going through weird hurdles. So a weird hurdle. So there's a situation where the person who's playing the woman's role in the movie, he's playing a queen. He's refusing to shave off his mustache because there's a superstition that it's bad omen to do that while your father is alive.
that was such a good.
It is such a phenomenal scene because he's like, you have to understand that this is going to look bad. You cannot be playing a woman and have a mustache. And the boy argues with him and says, some women have a mustache. This scene is so like, you can see this person getting defeated and he's like, have I not gone through enough? Like, I've already had to compromise my vision by hiring a man, and now I have to go through this. Like, it it and it was very common, like how Shakespearean plays had a lot of, mostly men playing female characters, right?
Mhm.
And it was very common
And
even
they
in
aren't,
Indian theater.
yeah, and they aren't allowed to shave their mustache or their head because their fathers are still alive.
Yeah, they're like, no, my dad's alive, and it's bad omen to like shave my mustache, so I'm not gonna shave my mustache. And it's just, uh, it's phenomenal. And he basically tells everybody in the house, whoever's playing a woman, to wear wigs, to wear a sari, so that they know how to walk like a woman, because there are no dialogues. So they have to convince an audience that these are actual women on the screen. And keep in mind, there is no colors. So, you're watching this with like very bare minimum quality of image. The, the amount of challenges these people had, I'm just amazed that these people existed and they took a chance on an industry they knew nothing about. And that's why it's feel good cinema. Just for that, it is feel good cinema.
Agree. Strong. All right.
Okay.
My number four. Yeah, number four is a very small but very, very famous Iranian movie by Abbas Kiarostami, and it's called
Mm-hmm.
Where's the Friend's Home?
I have not heard about this film. Okay.
You need to hear about it, you need to watch it, you need to revere. It's that good. Okay? So, I've been introduced to Iranian New Wave through, uh, what's that director's name? That makes Iranian Asghar Farhadi. Yeah, I saw his movies first. He makes movies. He's a current filmmaker. He's a two-time Oscar winner. Through him, through his movies, I discovered that there are his are not the only Iranian movies that exist. Uh, who was actually the father of Iranian New Wave? That's
Mm-hmm.
Abbas Kiarostami, and he makes these simple but very effective movies in a way that Iranian cinema, the censors do not allow a lot of things. They cut out a lot of things, not just violence or nudity or anything
Mm-hmm.
any kind, but even like political commentary or anything. So what these filmmakers actually did at that time was they used to make these simple kids movies, and they used to have political undertones. Okay, they used to
Mm-hmm.
talk about these things through these kid stories. And Where's the Friend's Home is one of the prime examples of that, one of the most prominent examples of that. Okay? But I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to talk about the political things that it addresses, which is
Mm-hmm.
great in its own way. What I want to talk about is the plot. And if I just tell you the plot, it's such a simple plot. You're gonna say, why is this even a movie? How this does this movie go on for like 90 minutes or something? This movie is
Mm-hmm.
only about this kid who wants to return his friend's textbook that he accidentally puts in his own bag. And the whole movie he spends finding his friend's home. That's why the movie is called Where's the Friend's Home. So the small journey that he goes through to find where his friend lives, whether he finds it or not, that's for you guys to figure out. But
Mm-hmm.
that's all the movie is about. And through this, I think Abbas Kiarostami has explored a lot of things. Childhood innocence, the fact that he goes like he knows that he's gonna meet his friend tomorrow in school, but he knows that if he doesn't give his book, his parent he might get in trouble like that. Only because of that, he just goes out of the way to, you know, just cross the mountain and go to his friend's place to get. And
Health is
he doesn't know where uh, he lives, so he's just fine. It's
wow.
as sweet as what I just described.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, if you love this, you should also explore his other movies. Rose Up is something that you should follow.
Okay.
You should watch all of his movies. But for me, the top two movies of Abbas is Where's the Friend's Home? Close Up. Close Up is again a very good movie. It's about this guy who uh, who forget the word. He uh, it's an identity theft case where he pretends to be a famous director, and he only does
Mm.
that because he wants to be the director. He doesn't have any monetary uh, any ulterior motives, any monetary motives or anything. He only does that because he wants that lifestyle, and the real life that he has is obviously not as for him.
Okay. Okay.
That movie is called
I'm sold. I'll watch this film.
Irani movie. Please watch. So yeah, I haven't seen many of the other Irani movies. I think Kiarostami is. Oh, there's Majid's Children of Heaven. Have you seen Children of Heaven?
No, but I've heard a lot about it, mostly from you.
Children of Heaven again a very sweet movie. Children's movie about a uh, kid and his shoes.
Okay.
See
Okay.
these small plots, no, they used to make, but they used to have these side may political commentary that we used to talk about.
Okay. Okay.
The fact that in this in Where's the Friend's Home, the fact that he has to cross the mountain and go to the other side, that is talking about borders and everything. It's not
Got
like
it.
it isn't allowed, but the fact that he has to do all that, that's again very well done and very sweet movie. It's very small, 90 minutes कुछ भी नहीं है. So
Okay. Okay. Got it.
all right,
I'm sold. I'll watch this film for sure today.
fifth final one.
Okay. Final one. This is the last movie on my top five list. Please bear in mind it. These are the movies I think over the past couple of months I keep going back to them. Ask me a year from now or a year before, my list would have been completely different. Uh, this movie is currently my go-to film when I want to feel like a little good, good in the heart, little fuzzy in my heart. This movie was chosen instead of some great feel good films like Vajda,
Hmm.
uh, like Queen,
Mhm.
um, and Queen. When I say Queen, I mean the Indian film Queen, uh, and Girls
Obviously,
Trip.
the British movie is about Diana's death and how the Queen is villainized.
God, no. The Indian film Queen. So Vajda is about the story. Again, this is a movie you introduced me to. I love this movie. It's just about a girl who wants to win a competition so she has enough money to buy a bike, because where she is currently, in, or the society that she's part of, it's not considered a good idea for a girl to have a bike. And that's it. Actually, that's the story. It's about how she tries to get money for the bike. Like, that's the story. It is fabulous film. Queen is about a girl that gets stood up at the altar by her fiance, and she goes to her honeymoon alone anyway because she always wanted to see Paris. And it's about the different people she meets, and the different things she discovers about herself. And that it's one of those rare Indian films which is not about a girl falling in love with a boy who deserves her. It's just about a woman finding herself, and through a honeymoon where she goes alone on, and it's really good. It'll get you in the feels. And Girls Trip, uh,
Hmm.
that's a good film. It's again about
Yeah.
friends having a fallout, and them finally coming face to face with the reality of the situation. And Tiffany Haddish is my number one beloved in that film. She has done such a great job. She's so funny. The movie has these really wonderful light moments, but it also talks about people recognizing their own worth. It is about four women, but this can apply to anybody, man or woman. It doesn't matter, man, woman, or non-binary. It doesn't matter. It's about finding yourself, finding your worth, and sometimes you need a little help along the way to figure that out. And it's hilarious. It's very So the an eighth grade, another film which it breaks your heart and it puts it back together so beautifully. It is about being a child and being lonely in this world, and that's all it is. uh, Watch it for the acting. I think the child actress has done such a great job. She's so good. I cannot believe she acts like this. She's way beyond her years. But yeah, these are some films that I was very much attached to. I think up till last year. Um, Instead of these movies, I have chosen Licorice Pizza as my. Is it yours too?
No,
Oh, thank God. Okay.
just excited that licorice pizza is going to be talked about.
So, okay, finally, you and I can talk about it because there was a bit of a gap between me watching it and you watching it. Licorice Pizza is coming of age, sure, but it is so much more than that. First of all, we have to give props to the actors. Some of the most fantastic casting I have seen happen in a film. It, in my opinion, did not get its due justice in awards year in award season this year. Um,
Uh,
but I think
Nobody
Alana
sees it the
plays.
way we do.
Yeah, no one. I actually think it's kind of just it's just overlooked. The weird thing is, it is such a brand new film, and everybody's talking about it, and I still think it is overlooked as a movie because it's about, first of all, it's about a woman in her 20s, and she meets this high school graduate who runs a bunch of odd businesses along with his family, and he gets into the waterbed business and she joins him, and the story kind of starts from there. And it's again set against a real event backdrop, which is the gas shortage or the oil shortage. And they basically have to shut down any business that is dependent on oil, and they have to find their own ways. So she ends up working for a politician. She ends up kind of realizing that she cannot be a teenager anymore. And that's the story. It's basically about 20-year-old realizing that she's an ex-teenager. She's not an adult yet, but she's an ex-teenager. And it there are scenes in that film which I replay in my head over and over again. So there's a very famous scene where this character, Elena, she drives a truck with no gas in it through
Hmm,
the streets of Los Angeles.
my favorite scene.
And she uses the slopes and the hills to, like, gain momentum, and without crashing into anything and without damaging anything or anyone's life, she manages to get it to a place where they can finally fill gas again. And you see that there are these kids with her, these teenagers who are hanging out with her, and she comes out of the bus and she sits on the footpath, and she looks at them, and they are like so impressed by her, and they're cheering her and they're so proud of her. And she realizes immediately that this
They're
is not
using
for her.
a. You forgot one thing. They're
What?
using the gas tank as a phallic device.
Yes, they are pretending that the gas tanks are penises, and they are
They're stroking.
jerking it off or some stupid shit like that. It is so child. The more you see that scene, the more you realize that it was intentionally shot like that, right? Like to show how childish it is. Like yeah, it's a very cool thing that she did, but at the same time, it was such a dangerous thing to do. And her realization and the way her face changes, and she's like, okay, I can't hang out with these kids anymore. I have to grow. And I think this is a great, uh, great. I think reversal of the storyline of Matthew McConaughey in Dazed and Confused, right? Because he says, I get older and the girls remain the same age, and he doesn't care about that. He still stays in that backdrop, in that movie where he's this guy who's graduated school, but he still hangs out with like schoolgirls. And and in this case, She sees that she's outgrown these people, and this is not healthy for her anymore, and she kind of comes out of it. Is I love
A
I
great way
love
to
that.
show the difference between 15 and 25, because you would think that even
Yes,
25 is like on the brink of maturity and maturity,
maturity. Hmm.
but
Hmm.
that scene is a great differentiator.
it
Great way
it
to
really is.
show why she thought of more
Yeah,
of what they
it
escaped, not just
of
the
what they escaped.
drug
Yeah.
part, but even Barbara Streisand's.
Yes, yes. The story is basically, I mean, I don't want to get into it. I want anyone who hasn't watched it should experience it. Anyone who has watched it knows exactly what I'm talking about.
And it's
uh
it's so sad that we can't talk about the ending
yeah, we can't
or
talk
the
about the
politician.
ending. We can't. Because honestly, first of all, it is in the backdrop of a side of Los Angeles that you don't get to see in the movies a lot. It's about, like, like the middle class areas of Los Angeles. It's not about like Malibu and beaches, and it's nothing like that. It's about, like these very simple kids who have simple ideas to like make quick money and stuff like that. And it's absolutely adorable. The way they have set it up is adorable. And her character basically meets this boy when she's in his school helping out for picture day. And he keeps hitting on her because he's smitten by this older mysterious woman. And he's doing everything in his power to impress her. Like, that's the beauty of it. Like, he's doing everything, like the businesses he's running, the waterbed business, everything is to impress her. And weirdly, stuff that she's doing is also to impress him, because she's in a point in her life where everybody's kind of getting into jobs, and they're probably established and probably stable, and she wants someone to feel proud of her. She wants someone to notice her. So while she doesn't heed into his romantic interest for her, she still adores um, his teenage attention and his teenage infatuation for her. It's just the actress she is,
So
and will
revelation.
always, oof. Like, I feel like when people look at movies a couple of years later and they're like, oh my god, I wonder who can play this part today. Like, I guarantee you this is one of those films where you will not want to touch it because you don't want anybody other than Elena Haim to play that character. And her character's name is also Elena, or Alana. And
Lana.
Alana. And she and I believe that uh she kind of she kind of represents what a lot of girls go through.
Mhm.
So remember the scene where through the boy she meets a friend of his, an older friend of his, and she hangs out with him and she starts dating him because she is Jewish and he's Jewish and he's handsome and charming, and she introduces him to her family, and he ends up saying, I don't identify as Jewish,
And unfortunately, is not the person.
or something like that. Yeah. And she basically, is sitting across the dining table and they're about to say prayer and he's refusing to partake of it. And she gets mad at him. And in that minute, you're thinking, wait, you went on dates with him and you never found out this basic thing about him that was so important to you. You just like assume that he's also. And that is the absurdity and the immaturity of, I think, at least as a woman, I have experienced this myself, where I'm like, oh, this is my checklist of what a guy is and what kind of a guy I can introduce to my parents. And then you realize that on paper, that checklist is stupid. Like, it's dumb. Ultimately, you want a person who, is respectful of you and kind to you and kind to your beliefs, and you don't want a pretentious snob. And she realizes that on the table, that she's basically just dating this guy because he's charming, but he's actually a pretentious ass. And and she gets embarrassed in front of her family. Like, it is important to her that her family looks at her as a grown up, and that doesn't happen. And she has siblings and they're judging her, and it's just, Everything about that movie is feel good. It ends well. It's anybody who is either
It ends
has
so
just,
well.
yeah, yeah,
It ends
like
well and how.
it ends so well. And there's some very beautiful cinematic experiences in that, about a girl and boy running away from danger, and
Hmm.
towards a brighter future. And it's not necessarily established that it is romantic in nature. It's just that,
Although running is,
yeah, yeah, there's a lot of running in the movie, which I adore. uh, it's very pleasant on the eyes, the film. So if you want to watch it all cozied up in your blanket on a weekend, it's the perfect film. uh, and let me know why you think it's called licorice pizza. uh, we have we have a, I mean, there is a direct confirmation of the theory of, I mean, of why it is called licorice pizza. But we also have our interpretations of it, Sanket and I, where we talk about um instances of the characters, like how licorice is a weird sweet and pizza is savory, and it's not supposed to go together, but
mhm,
it does somehow.
like chalk
uh
and cheese.
yeah, yeah. So it's a movie I adore. um and I think it's so weird. I feel like female protagonists are really having their moment right now, in my list.
Yeah.
um
I talk about like, forget like licorice pizza not winning anything. Alana Haim didn't even get nominated for an Oscar.
yeah, and I don't know why.
Jessica
She was
Chastain won and Alana Haim didn't even get nominated.
didn't even get and I don't understand why. Like, I don't know.
Like the
I don't know.
best actress race this year was so tough, it was because there weren't any good ones nominated.
Yeah,
Not
literally, right?
the actresses I'm saying, I'm just talking about. Like
Yeah, I
Olivia
mean,
Colman was great, obviously, in The Lost Daughter, but the movie itself didn't get recognized. So that's why she didn't have a chance.
for me, honestly, it always boils down to the story and the character. So if the story is phenomenal, right, there's a very good chance that the character is going to stand out. Lost Daughter was an amazing film. Okay? Anybody who's not watched it should watch it. It's not a feel good movie, but it's a movie worth watching. It's about a very different side of motherhood, that people don't are generally not comfortable talking about. Uh, but for me, I don't know. Nicole Kidman in Being the Ricardos.
Like they were good. I'm not saying that they were bad, but
No,
they're
I'm
not
not saying they
best
were bad.
actress material.
Yeah, exactly. The, like that, we can say there are at least 20 other films that should have been on there. Like the actresses should have been on there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But if they were on there, then Alana Haim had every business being there. Every business. If that was the criteria to be nominated, then she had every business being there. But and I don't know when such a role will come back again, or when something of this magnitude of like amazing awesomeness is going to show up again in a story.
Mhm.
And for a girl, first of all, who doesn't fall in that conventional mold of, like a female character that
Mhm.
we generally see encouraged,
Feminine.
to feminine and very, I don't know, always looks perfect. Like there are moments in the film where you see her, like she's all dressed and she's all cute and pretty, like that's not the point, but you see that life is beating her down, and that's showing on her in spite of the fact that she's very young.
Yeah.
I love love that they have done that, because I feel like the younger I was, the easier it was to like baffle me or shake me or make me feel insecure about myself and what I wanted to do. And she brought that out so well in her story. Like phenomenal, like start to finish. Like also, it's a character which justifies a teenage boy's infatuation. You know what I mean? Like it is justified why he's so
Hmm.
terribly like, in puppy love with her. Like, uh, but yeah, that's my last film for the feel good list.
Okay. I also want to talk about a bunch of films that
Yeah,
didn't make the
let's
list.
get it.
One was two only good Guy Ritchie movies, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Match. Again, two crime films, which crime films are not generally feel good, but these two make an exception. Then there's Borat, one of my favorite comedies of all time. Anytime I can watch it, you ask me any, you pick one line from the movie and pick one line, and I'll complete the rest of it. I have seen that movie that many. Then when we're talking about comedy, obviously there's a whole bunch of Charlie Chaplin movies that we have talked about. City Lights, Modern Times, Gold Rush, that
Gold
amazing
Rush.
scene that he does with folks and the bun that he does, dance that he does.
Hmm.
And Modern Times, Great Dictator, amazingly feel. Anytime you put it on, you love.
Hmm.
What else? Amelie. Amelie is such a
Amelie, I forgot about Amelie.
Amelie is again great example of a great
Yes,
movie and a great character, which was adorable.
yes.
It's very hard to, if you think, there are very few movies that have good characters that are so adorable, protagonists that are so adorable. There are very few movies that manage to do that without like making the characters annoying. Amelie was an exception. And the one that I'm going to select for my the last film that I'm going to select is Little Miss Sunshine.
I was waiting for you to talk about it. Okay, let's go.
Little Miss Sunshine, what do I say? I love ensemble pieces. Ensemble pieces are by default feel good for me. Like that's why I
Yeah.
love. That's why Zoe Akhtar is my favorite director, favorite Bollywood director. When she makes an ensemble piece, everybody should just quit. Be it Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, Dil Dhadakne Do. And when we're
Oh,
talking about ensemble pieces, how can we forget Wes fucking Anderson? We can talk about,
oh,
we can't talk about feel
absolutely,
good and not talk about we can't talk about feel good and not talk about Wes Anderson.
absolutely,
Okay, like
absolutely.
I think the reason why we are not including anything of his is because we are two biggest fans of Wes Anderson, and we will have
Oh,
something in the future dedicated to him
only
for
to
sure.
him. Yeah, yeah. Like I
But
feel like like how Olivia Colman deserves a separate podcast. Like
yeah,
his movies deserve a separate podcast. Like we cannot just throw him into a mix of movies.
yeah. Little Miss Sunshine, again an ensemble piece, but the reason why it uh, makes this movie stand out from the other ensemble pieces is the fact that every single character there, nobody's nobody's uh, the same. Like they're five, six, five very distinct characters. You see.
Hmm.
Oh, by the way, a trivia. Do you know a movie which has Hank and Walter White from Breaking Bad? They starred in a movie. They both starred in a movie. Not the character, the actors.
Yeah,
Bryan
yeah, I know.
Cranston and Dean Norris. Little Miss
Uh,
Sunshine.
where
They
was
both
Dean
have
Norris?
cameos in it. The He's the cop,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Bryan
I
Cranston's the boss.
completely forgot about it. I completely forgot
And
about.
another trivia. Do you know a show which has uh, Bob Odenkirk. Sorry, I'm digressing, but I have to mention this
Uh-huh.
trailer.
Uh-huh.
That has Bob Odenkirk, Bryan Cranston, and Aaron Paul in a show.
The hell? Are you serious?
Yes, the show is called Third Rock from the Sun. It's very difficult to like to spot Aaron Paul and this Bob Odenkirk, but Bryan Cranston obviously had a very big role in it. They are their side characters. Bob Odenkirk in this. Bob Odenkirk at least to have lines. Aaron Paul is just in the background.
Like he's just there. He
Yeah.
just exists. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Fine. Little Miss Sunshine. Yeah. So I was talking about the thing that makes this ensemble stand out uh, is the fact that all five are very distinct. No two characters are similar, okay? And that comes out now in the movie. You talk about the dad character, the mom character. Even if they are parents, they have to
Mm-hmm.
they too have like specific roles they have to play in the whole journey, not just to like specifically to Alice. Her name is in the movie
Olive.
Olive. Yeah, Olive. Then
You're
obviously,
talking about the kid, right? The
yeah,
kid.
the kid. Then the grandfather character. Again, you might think that he's a supporting character there, but I
Mm-hmm.
think his role was way more. Uh, his role in Olive's life was way more important than any in the movie, and that's why his death actually felt something. It wasn't
Yeah.
just like he was making quips and everything and teaching Alice and everything. It was
Yeah.
he was much more to Alice than just a grandfather. He was a fan, and
He was
there's
her.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's obviously the breakout role, a role which we did not expect Steve Carell to play so well.
Steve Carell has
That was my
he
yeah. Tell me.
uh he basically established that he can do whatever the hell he likes and he's going to do a great job
Yeah,
at it, and he's not just going to rise and shine with just the office, and he's basically going to own anything he gets his hands on.
yeah. He was the first. Again, I saw it like when I was super young. Maybe like I think I saw it when it first came out, and his was the first homosexual character that I saw, which was acting masculine. Before that, I was only accustomed to gay characters in Bollywood.
Yeah, which were very
Yeah,
horrifically portrayed.
and I was like,
Yeah,
why is he acting like a man?
I know what you
But
mean.
yeah, I don't see anyone else playing that character.
No,
Steve
no.
Carell did a wonderful job in that. And Paul Dano, this guy, if you see, he's done so much the past 14, 15 years that he's been around.
Yeah,
He's done
yeah.
so much. And yeah, this for me is my favorite role of his. Paul Dano has done Prisoners, he's done his Batman, great in those movies. But when I think of Paul Dano, I think of Little Miss.
Same, same. I mean, the weird thing is like for me, Prisoners is kind of heartbreaking to see him in that role because I always think of him as the big brother from Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah. He's pulled that scene off so well where he finds out about.
Yeah, that he's so. Um, I don't know. Can we talk about this without spoiling it? I guess not, right?
We can talk about it.
And they already know the grandpa's gonna die, so
Oh, sorry, but
that's okay.
grandpas in movies die only.
Okay, don't say come on. No. So we have to
Dude,
understand
the
something about.
sorry, but he bought
Go
like
go go.
porn magazines and stuff, so obviously he's gonna. I,
Oh God. No, that is not the okay. That might be the American criteria of killing off somebody, but we don't condone
dude,
that in storytelling.
that might be the reason why he died. Now I think about it.
God,
He had a
because
heart
he
attack or
was
something, right?
horny. Stop it. No, that's not why he
Yeah,
died. He died.
and he didn't have any pacemaker.
Oh God. Okay. Okay. Fine.
He
Okay.
would have he would have been alive if he would have stayed home with his partner.
I I hate this line of discussion. I absolutely detest it. But okay.
Top 10, top next episode would be top 5 grandfathers who die.
Stop. Just stop. And I think I think there's a lot of material in that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there can be comedy ones.
Grandfather.
There can be comedy ones. They can be. Oh, my! You know what my favorite one is? Uh, Naked Mind. Have you seen American Pie? Naked?
No, I have not.
So he's jerking off, and then he nobody's at home. So they, his grandmother walks into the room, and there is some sort of ejection happening, which she experiences, and yeah, so she also doesn't have pacemaker.
Okay. Great. Have you deviated far away from the topic of feel good cinema? Very good. You have. You have successfully done it. I'm so proud of you.
Cool.
Okay.
You're saying something.
Coming back to Little Miss Sunshine. Little Miss Sunshine, the character of Paul Dano. The reason I think it's so impactful, that scene for both of us, is because he is shown as this very stoic, very unhinged, sorry, very put together kind of character. And there's a scene
Hmm.
where he discovers something about himself, which uh, basically is gonna uh, wreck his future plans for something. And he has a complete meltdown, like a child.
Uh-huh.
Like you look at him from beginning, and he's like, oh, he's a matured adult, person who has his shit together, and then he has a meltdown. Um, like I think he has a anxiety attack, and he basically just is bawling like a baby. And that transition of that character is, I don't know. I have not seen a group of characters in a story which, first of all, a very very plausible story, right? It's about a family that is helping their kid get to a beauty pageant so they can earn some money from the beauty pageant, right? This is something that happens
Mm.
even today. It's nothing unheard of. But to show everyone's motivation behind making sure she gets to the competition is so tragically beautiful. And
Yeah,
uh,
the fact
it's
that the
it
father
yeah,
uh, stops her from eating a lot of things,
yeah,
fat shames her.
yeah. Fat shames her, makes her insecure, and then when the right people step in and talk her into recognizing her own beauty and not caring about what her father says, or whatever. Like, it is like we don't realize the amount of abuse or the amount of nonsense a child faces. And because they're children, they don't have minds of their own. They don't have access to information. They don't have access to real opinion of what they have. Everything they're doing is imitating their parents, and they've depicted that so well for her, that she's kind of following suit of her parents. She's not really in control of what is happening. And so, again, like I said, right, eighth grade does that for me. When she looks at the camera and she goes Gucci, and she's like basically following a trend. She's a teenager following a trend. She's so lonely. In that moment, it is just her and no one else. And that side of childhood that nobody talks about, that it's actually a very lonely experience. That's why you're waiting to grow up, because you want to not feel lonely anymore.
And that's why the
uh,
grandfather character is such, like,
yeah,
equalizes every shit that the dad
that
puts
the
her
dad
through.
puts her through.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
like he's when in that hotel room, motel room, and she asks him, "Am I pretty?" And he says, "Olive, you're the most prettiest girl that I've ever seen." I
Yeah.
don't know that dialogue was so beautiful.
Yeah. And also, he doesn't like, he addresses her question.
Uh,
You know, like how I have seen these stories and these movies where, you know, girls is like, oh, am I pretty? Like she's a child, you know, or a teenager, or you know, a tween kind of a character. So, am I pretty? Like, you know, I'm not like, I don't think I'm pretty like the girls I find pretty in magazines or in my classes and stuff like that.
mm,
And then the parental figures or the authoritative figures at that point goes, it doesn't matter what's on the outside, it matters what's on the inside. And that's not what happens in that scene.
yeah,
He addresses her question.
yeah,
She asks if she is physically beautiful,
yeah,
and instead of being like, oh, it doesn't matter if you are, what matters is what, no, a child's not going to understand that. Child's not going to understand self-worth. A child is asking, am I pleasant on the eyes, am I easy on the eyes? And it takes a very oddball kind of a character to not use that as a teachable moment, and to literally be like, you're so pretty, like you're, to me, you're the prettiest person in the whole world, without going into her personality or her
he tells her
soul
it's
and what.
not because you have a good heart or anything.
Good heart, like he says that, says, it's not because you're a good person, like kind of addressing and saying, like, if you were a rotten person, even then I would have thought you're the most pretty person in the world. I love that so much, because as a child, um my I was not called pretty by my parents, right? Like I say, oh my god, you're so cute and you're such a good kid, and which is again all wonderful things to hear, very supportive things to hear from your parent. But sometimes you just want them to address the question at hand and not beat around the bush. And in that moment, he's treating her like an actual adult, which is amazing, right? Like he's talking to her like the way an adult would talk to another adult, who's like, okay, don't say I have a good personality, I'm asking you if I'm pretty. I love that scene. That's my favorite scene too.
Yeah.
Is that end of the list? That's end of the list.
Yes. Finally
That's end of the
reached
list.
the end. Two
Uh,
hours.
that's a lot of
That's
content, guys.
way more. The, is this longer than Little Miss Sunshine? Certainly longer than Where's the Friend Zone.
Oh God. Um, please give this a listen. Let us know if you want us to cover other films or other kinds of films. If you want us to give you recommendations about something, because you know, Sangeet and I have very vast range of movies that we love. Uh,
Yeah.
Fortunately, there's a big chunk of our choices which
That's
don't
why
match. So
that's why I decided to work with you because like I ignored the fact that you're an annoying person. I figured
you
that
ignored the fact that what?
that you're an annoying person.
That I'm an annoying okay. Say it
So
loudly, say it loudly. Why you scared of saying
but
that? Say
then
it
I
out
was
loud.
like, let's just sacrifice the fact that I have to spend time with her and everything. Let's just go into it because she also will help the podcast with her varied recommendations and everything. That will help the podcast. So I took one for the podcast.
Anyone who can't see I'm flipping off something, let it be recorded that Surabi flipped off something like this and like that.
All right, that's how we end the episode then.
Me flipping you off? No, no, no. Please give us recommendations about anything else you would want to, hear us talking about. Uh, do keep in mind, this is the point of this is to not critique filmmaking in any way, but it's just about talking about stuff that impacts us in any
Mm.
way, like positive, negative, doesn't matter. So
Unless it's social network, right? That's all.
It's okay for me. It's the fact that you can't get over it. Like, if who cares if I don't like it? How does it matter? Like, do I care deeply about you not liking Dil Chahta? It astonishes me because you like that form of storytelling, but at the same time, I don't care that you don't like it. Like, you just can't get over me not caring for Social Network, which is like both hilarious and tragic.
I'm just I just can't get over the fact that a character and a character who's annoying can get in the way of you enjoying.
Yeah, it can. Look at the movies I just chose for feel good cinema. They're about people who try to do
Even if it
something good.
wasn't feel good, you wouldn't have selected Social Network in any of the other categories.
No,
Unless
I
it's like
wouldn't have.
worst movies of October 2010.
I'm not saying it's a bad film. I'm saying there is a bias that I can't detach from, which puts me in a position to not being able to judge it. That's all.
Alright, fine.
So it's best that I don't judge it.
Okay, fine.
Not
We have to end it.
fine. End
Way
it.
over to us.
That's fine. That's okay. That's fine by me.
Alright. Ciao, Bella.
Okay. Ciao, Ella. Talk to you guys soon.